Thank you for tuning in to this Wednesday edition of the Q&A here on OTRS Central. All the information you need on how to send your questions to me for future Q&A episodes is in the description box down below. So with that out of the way, make sure you check that out and some other information in the description box as well. It's time for today's Q&A. Let's get started. At the Roman BITW, so Roman's best in the world. I almost wonder if this is Summer's account. Do you think it's best that SmackDown and Raw should be on separate brands? Or should be separate brands? No, only the reason I say that is because the WWE had gotten to the point where so much of what you saw on Raw you would see again on SmackDown or vice versa, and they weren't really treating SmackDown as its own separate unique brand anyways. Why bother doing it? I'm okay with the brands being together as one because frankly I'm not watching SmackDown anyway, so it really makes no difference to me. Just if anything gives me a reason to watch one less wrestling show, which is a good thing. At John Cena is a tool. If you could choose one retired wrestler to be a GM, who would it be and why? At this point in time, it would be Edge. And the reason it would be Edge is because here's a guy that the fans almost universally love. This is a guy that the fans wouldn't get tired of seeing. This is a guy that definitely brings some respectability and credibility to any type of GM position. And he's also got the chops, I think, to really make it work from a microphone standpoint, from a comedic standpoint, from a seriousness standpoint. So I think the dynamics of Edge being the general manager could work and work very well, actually. At Aponte J. Smooth, is Rusev being built up just to be fed to Cena in the future? All roads eventually lead to Cena in the WWE, don't they? And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility if things continue to go the way that they're going. You might very well see a Rusev and Cena program, perhaps even leading up to a WrestleMania. But we'll see. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. At Chris S. Krager, what were your thoughts on Chyna's 4.5-year run in the then WWF? I always liked Chyna, actually, and I thought she was good for the business. She showed that women can actually have huge drawing power to the WWE, and no matter how much the WWE tries to spin it, because it's not the right thing to say, because now Triple H is boning Stephanie, not Chyna, so we try to sweep Chyna under the rug, and we try to totally dismiss her legacy. For those of us that watched during that era, we know better. We know Chyna had a significant impact on the company. There's no question about that. She was one of the biggest stars of the Attitude Era. And again, there is no question about that. I think she's been very disrespected by the WWF and WWE over the past 10 plus years, and I think it's a shame. It's all this revisionist history, but that revisionist history doesn't change the real history, hopefully, for those of us that do and should know better. At The Real Monkey, if you could have one of your videos go viral to the point where the top people in WWE watch it, which one would it be? If I did a video talking about the John Cena monster and talking about why he's an unnecessary crutch for the WWE, maybe that one. If I could really have one that's already been recorded, though, and I probably would prefer, is any one of the videos I've done about the WWE's racism, maybe the most recent video talking about why it's bad for business. That's the one that I would want them to watch the most, because I feel that's the one that if the message actually sunk through, it could affect some real positive change for the company, the wrestlers, for the fans, basically all parties involved. At Rampager, with Kurt Angle leaving TNA in 2 months, if he resigns with WWE, how would you book him in today's WWE? Are we for sure that Kurt Angle's leaving in 2 months? And if it came out of Kurt Angle's mouth, why would you believe him? It's the first thing I would say. If he did resign with WWE, how would I book him? Maybe in a manner somewhat similar to an RVD in the sense that he's on for a few months and then off for a few months. But the difference is when I would bring in Angle, I wouldn't just bring him in to bring him in. I would actually bring him in to work a program with somebody. I'd probably want to do 4 to 6 months at a time with Angle, and I'd want to work him with certain people for a certain reason to get something out of them. So that might be how I would book. I'm not going to go into the specifics or semantics. At D Hardy 94, what was worse, Nexus losing at SummerSlam or Punk returning a week after he left the company? Now, this is a tremendous question because you could definitely make arguments for both. You could say the Nexus losing at SummerSlam really effectively buried for a period of time 7 individuals. 7. And not a single one of them has been world champion. But then you look at Punk and the returning a week after he left the company. Well, now you can sit there and say, well, he left the company any fucking ways. Now it's real. So what does it matter? But this was at a time where, fans were really excited, especially the hardcore fans and maybe some casual fans that had started to tune out a little bit because of how bad 2010 was, were pissed off about things like the Nexus losing at SummerSlam, etc. Getting tired of the same old shit. Well, here's CM Punk. You've got the chance to do a storyline that could be remembered for years, that could really be the launching of something different, something special, something new, something fresh for the WWE, and it ultimately became the same old shit. I guess I'd ask you guys that question. What was worse, the Nexus losing at SummerSlam or Punk returning a week after he left the company? Even though it involves 7 people losing at SummerSlam, I might side with Punk returning a week after he left the company being the worst thing. At Real Matt Hendricks, what do you think about Sting's recent comments about being glad to be a part of the WWE family? Really don't have much in the way of thoughts on it at this point. What exactly is his part in the WWE family will ultimately be determined. I still would like to see him at least work one program in the WWE. But, then I also think about it sometimes maybe it's a little too late for all of that. And I'm the best 10. Do you ever listen to 70s and 80s heavy metal? No, not really, because I just don't really listen to much music to begin with. I never really have been a tremendously big music fan. Music doesn't really consume me. God knows today's music sure as hell doesn't consume me, and nor should it consume any of you. Because across the genres, it is pretty much all boo-boo. Boo-boo. Period. At Treyon 5, will the WWE Network make it to the end of the year? Oh, yeah. There's no question it'll make it to the end of the year. It'll make it to the end of 2015. It'll make it to the end of 2016, I'm sure. It'll make it to the end of the year. There's no doubt. At 35, Robert 16, did WWE miss an opportunity with Shelton Benjamin by not giving him a major title? I'm assuming you mean a world title. Yeah, I think so a little bit. And the people that sit there and say, well, he just couldn't talk on the stick and da-da-da. Well, what the fuck do you call Randy Orton? I mean, let's be real here. Let's call it how we see it. In no way, shape, or form can you tell me that Randy Orton is anything close to great or even very good on the fucking microphone, yet he's been a double-digit time world champion in the company. Even those of you that like to sit there and say, oh, Jeff Ziegler and his work shoots and well, let me put it to you this way. Mediocre bum Bartholomew Gunn II is not exactly the most charismatic individual in the world, especially when it comes from a storyline standpoint. What is so fucking different between a Dolph Ziggler and a Shelton Benjamin? For Christ's sakes, they gave Jack Swagger a world championship run. Oh, Christ, I could keep going on and on and on. Yes, they missed an opportunity, perhaps a big one. Not everybody needs to talk, and not everybody that does talk even needs to be great on the mic in order to get their point across and in order for them to get over. Shelton Benjamin was over. He didn't need the microphone to get over, so don't use the microphone if he doesn't need it to fucking get over. Are you a Turtle 44? How would you book a feud and match between Psycho Sid and the genetic freak Scott Steiner in today's PG era? You do 2 things. You give them both a mic and give them 15 minutes and say whatever you want. You hope Sid talks about, people trying to make him look like a jackass. You hope Scott Steiner gives us a mathematics and English language lesson. And then in terms of the match, you make it a second turnbuckle stipulation. That's all you need. No intricate bullshit. It would get over. And Mr. Tuxedo, do you listen to any wrestlers' podcasts? And if so, who are your favorites? No, I don't listen to any wrestlers' podcast. I'm sure a lot of you do, or at least some of you do. I find it funny that so many wrestlers over the years have made fun of fans and people that don't know for doing podcasts. And now the people in the wrestling business and wrestlers and former wrestlers are doing podcasts. I was just saying. At Burn Notice 3216, I was wondering, is there a place on YouTube where you could just talk about general stuff like your 9/11 video and not your stupid sports videos? Well, if you like sports videos, or you want to hear my thoughts on things not pertaining to sports or wrestling, check out youtube.com/SchlegDaddyTV and Burn Notice 3260. There is an entire series on that Schleg Daddy TV channel called Stupid America series. That has, I think 18 to 20 videos in there talking about all types of very political topics. There's other topics throughout that channel that have nothing to do with sports whatsoever. Look and you'll find them and hopefully you'll enjoy them. At Dan UK93, what could up-and-coming superstars take from the CM Punk situation? Do you think WWE's learned anything from it too? No, WWE hasn't learned anything from it. What superstars can learn from CM Punk's situation is that maybe from a positive standpoint, maybe work hard to get yourself in a position where you don't have to have the WWE in your life in order to have a life. And if you want to walk away, you can. But also understand that the CM Punk situation also clearly proved that for the WWE, no one individual is bigger than the company. Ever. Ever. And for all the people that are even going to sit there and say that they think John Cena does fit into that category, I understand that. And to a certain degree, what you're saying isn't totally illogical. But if something happened where Cena really started to slack and Cena really started to piss off the powers that be in WWE, Vince McMahon would stick the screws to him quicker than you could possibly blink. And that's a damn fact. At NJCT, should the King of the Ring concept be used for NXT? If you used it as a once-a-year concept to sit there and say that the winner of this King of the Ring tournament on NXT either A, gets a roster spot, or B, gets a future shot at the IC or US title at a pay-per-view like SummerSlam, then yeah, fuck, bring it in and use it on NXT then. I'd be perfectly fine with that. I would be. And it's Johnny Russo. Although it's more than clear that Miz is the big favorite to win the Battle Royal, who else can you see winning? Obviously a big Miz fan if you think that. I think they're definitely pointing in that direction, but I don't think that's the only direction they could possibly go. I think Bo Dallas is actually a somewhat logical choice at this point because he would wrestle every week. He'd win matches. Would I like to see the Miz as the IC champion, though? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think he's a very good choice as an IC champion. Add imputations. Do you think Jack Swagger hurt both the careers of Ziggler and Barrett by injuring them when they were hot? Yes. I don't understand why Jack Swagger continues to get pushes when he does nothing with them, screws it up for himself, and screws up other people. At Mr. Fantastic 11, where do you see this Bo Dallas winning streak going? To infinity and beyond, I believe. At Franchise Thomas, why the fuck are they bringing Flo Rida to the Raw next week? Because, by God, that'll get people to subscribe to the WWE Network. And AK Warrior 78, what do you think the match of the year so far is? For WWE, maybe Wyatt and Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble. Maybe Daniel Bryan, Orton, and Batista at WrestleMania 30 because of what it signified and what it meant and the journey and the story that led up to it. Maybe the Money in the Bank ladder match at Money in the Bank. Those would be three for the WWE that stand out. At _Blazer_420, what did WWE ever do with Eugene, and do you believe they should have done more with him? Well, I mean, they put him into a freaking program with Triple H that led to a match at SummerSlam, so it's not like they didn't push him at all. Slowly, they started to de-emphasize him, and eventually they sent him packing. Should they have done more with him? Perhaps. I think they could have done more with him. I'd love to see Eugene make a surprise appearance at a Royal Rumble someday. At WWE Studs and Duds, are you surprised Vince let his white babyface put over the black president? No, not really, because he did it anticipating that people were going to boo Obama, which Vince was going to get off his Viagra-induced rocks to. At Gail Tyler LP, the failing of the network and desperation to get people to pay for it. Should it result in top executives being fired right now? Yes, it should. Will it? Probably not. It should, though, because the decision makers behind this whole process and the rollout and the execution, people can need to pay. And that's up to and including Vincent K. McMahon. Yes, upper management should be on the hot seat. They should have been the ones on the biggest hot seat. But just like with any other company, when things go bad, instead of blaming the people to make the ding-dong, dumb-dick decisions, we blame the people at the bottom. Such is life, such is the business world. And at the Kyle Shevlin closes out the Q&A. In terms of creative understanding of the business, who do you think is the best booker promoter? Bischoff, Heyman, or Cornette? It's not Cornette. We've seen his work. I don't think it's Bischoff. We've seen his work. It probably is Heyman as long as you keep him away from the money. But frankly, it's been several years since we've really seen him in a big time creative capacity. So we frankly don't even know what he would bring to the table today. We might think because it's Paul Heyman and he was ECW that it would be all fine and dandy. But he might just be as out of touch as a Bischoff or a Cornette is. So I don't really know. Again, thanks to all of you that submitted your questions for this Q&A. Remember, the next Q&A is coming up Friday, and it's the Facebook, easy for me to say, Friday edition. So check back in for that.